Okay, I'll call to order. Is it me?
You can kill the audio.
Did you turn that one off?
It's off.
Ready? Okay, I call to order the Rolesville Board of Commissioners workshop session. This is January the 16th, 2024. Thanks everybody for joining tonight. As you can see, Commissioner Long is not with us. He's feeling a little bit under the weather, so he's going to watch online like the other 11,000 folks in town. Because tonight we have property revaluation, so I think everybody in town is watching. So, so with that, I say let's just jump into it. First thing is property valuation. Amy, you going to do the introduction on that?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Property tax is a significant source of revenue for the town's operations. It's over 50% of your operating revenue annually. An important component of that property tax calculation is property valuation. Every 4 years, Wake County revalues properties within the county limits. The last revaluation was January 1 of 2020. So our new revaluation date, January 1 of 2024. Earlier today, Wake County Commissioners received an update on that revaluation. Rolesville gets to be one of the first on the list for the follow-up for how it impacts this specific community. So tonight we have Nicole Kreiser, Deputy Tax Administrator with Wake County, to come forward and give you those results for the town of Rolesville. So without ado, I will turn things over to Nicole.
Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
I'm really pleased to be with you tonight. I'm going to walk through a slide deck that discusses revaluation, what it is, why it's required. I'm going to talk about the actual revaluation project. What was the work to revalue properties? I'll share with you the results, and I'm going to compare and contrast, show you the county as a whole, and then hone in and talk about Rolesville specifically. And then I will walk through several slides that will talk about information that's available for property owners or just you guys in general to share. So if there are questions about revaluation or someone's individual specific assessed value, I'll walk through those tools. And then I'll talk to you about next steps. So I'm going to just do a basic one-on-one of what is revaluation. And I'm going to apologize in advance if some of this information is, I've heard it before, you guys have had it, but we think it's really important to ground everyone on what is revaluation. So revaluation is the process of updating real property values to reflect fair market value as of January 1st, 2024. Why do we do it? Well, North Carolina state law says we have to. Revaluations are required in North Carolina at least once every 8 years. Most of what we call the Big Ten counties, everyone except Cumberland County, does it on a more frequent cycle. So we do, and along with our peers in Mecklenburg and Durham, in Guilford and Forsyth, et cetera, do it once every 4 years. In 2016, the Board of Commissioners changed the cycle to shorten it. So 2020 was the first one on a 4-year cycle. The cycle that we are in now is the second on a 4-year timetable. And revaluations ensure property values accurately reflect fair market value. And so you're reallocating the property tax burden equitably across all taxpayers because the market changes, right? And the market changes dependent on where you live and what type of property you have. If everything changed the same, it would be a whole lot easier to do a revaluation because it's just the same information. But revaluations allow your property tax burden which is made up of assessed value times property tax rate equals how much someone pays on a tax bill, to be redistributed based off of fair market value. And that fair market value is also what's required by law. We don't do value based off of something else. It's what someone in a willing, open, competitive market with a willing buyer and a willing seller would pay a hypothetical price for a property. So it's what basically we are assessing properties based off of the market when we do updated values for revaluation. So what does it include? So it includes all of your residential and commercial property, the structures and the land, apartments, condominiums, office buildings, storehouses, warehouses. It's what we call real property. And again, fair market value is the most probable price a property would bring for sale in an open, competitive market. Again, the effective date is January 1st, 2024. The last one we did was effective January 1, 2020. And revaluation impacts approximately 92% of Rolesville's property tax base. The rest of your property tax base are things that are excluded in a revaluation. And so that's property that is valued annually, and that's personal property. So that's your business personal property, your computers, your machinery, equipment, things that are not the real property, but assets in a building. It's also going to be your vehicles, your trailers, your camps, your campers, boats, airplanes. Those things are also required to be taxed by state law for property tax purposes, but your values are updated annually for those. And then public utility property, that's your power lines, your railroads, those assessed values actually come annually from the Department of Revenue, and then we apply the value that Department of Revenue says times a property tax rate to get property tax revenue for those property. Those make up all of it, the personal property, make up 8% of Rolesville's tax base for property tax purposes. So what's mass appraisal? Because here's something else that we want to make sure we distinguish when we talk about how we are establishing assessed values. We are not doing fee appraisals. Fee appraisal is when you hire an appraiser, like if you're redoing like a mortgage and you're refinancing your property and you need to have someone come inside your property, take pictures and measure your house and get a property value. This is a little bit different because it's on a much larger scale, and we use standardized techniques and procedures, including statistics and software, to be able to establish market value for properties. So we're using standardized techniques. We're using staff that have been trained. We have our computer-assisted mass appraisal software that support us in this work. And so it's on a magnitude where we are still assigning assessed values, but it's on a systematic approach that approach is consistent for all properties in Wake County. When we are talking how we establish value, you're looking at the sales approach, the cost approach, and the income approach are all ways we establish fair market value when we do a revaluation. So the next thing I'm going to talk about are the steps of revaluation. Because revaluation really is a project that lasts over 2 years. The first step is neighborhooding, where we take the county's 425,000 plus parcels and divide it into about 5,100 neighborhoods throughout the county. And what we're doing are establishing neighborhoods that are based on similar market, economic, and geographic conditions, because we want to be able to establish values in like-for-like areas. We're also looking at the next step, which is land and building pricing. So we're looking at sales of homes that have happened, and we're looking at to see what the market's doing to establish various land values, building grades. We're looking at, well, what are the influences of various property characteristics to see, well, what are those rates and how does that influence an assessed value? We then go out and do a field and office review where our appraisers, and again, we're not going inside a home, but we will have appraisers out in the field, they're in their car, they have tablets, and they're looking at various property characteristics. So we have our software that says, okay, we think this value should be this, and then our appraiser is out in the field going, okay, that makes sense based off of the condition I'm seeing in person, based off of the characteristics I see in this neighborhood. That seems like what I see from my computer software, what I know from my appraisal knowledge. I'm making an adjustment up, down, or I'm keeping it the same. So that's our field and office review stage. And then finally, we're here where we're at today, which is notice of assessment and appeal review. We send out all of the notices to property tax owners, property owners, and then if they want to appeal, they can submit an appeal. They don't have to. If everything is fine and they get that notice of assessed value and they're like, I agree, you know what, I see what my neighbor's house just sold for, that gotta make sense. They don't have to do anything, but everybody has the right to submit an appeal, and I'll walk through those steps in just a little bit. So that's the process. So let's talk about our review activity. Our appraisers have been incredibly busy. We have done 248,831 office reviews. So that's looking at statistics and data of properties in the office, and another 177,455 field reviews. So that's going out and looking at properties in the field. That's 3 times as many field reviews as we were able to do for the 2020 revaluation. So we've worked really hard, and my team has worked really hard to understand what the market is, because the market has changed rapidly in this area. And so everyone, between looking at information on a computer, looking at information in a field, there's been a lot of work that has gone into this. And Wake County really has changed. This is a slide that shows Wake County's revaluation history from 1992 to 2020. So we were on an 8-year cycle between 92 and 2000, 2000 to 2008, 2008 to 2016, and then again 2020 was that first 4-year review. Look at the growth in parcels. Wake County as a whole went from 165,000 parcels in 1992 to 395,000 in 2020, and we have even more today. Look at the single-family homes, going from 105,000 to over 312,000. And you can also see the growth in the county as a whole for value, looking at magnitudes from 1992 of 30 billion up to 2020, which really, this is right before valuation of 178.5 billion. And we know that Rolesville has had similar growth. The number of single-family homes has grown dramatically in the town. So here's Wake County real property as of January 1, 2024. There are over 427,527 parcels. So a parcel, remember, if you had a big rural farm, that's one parcel. If you have a townhome, that's another parcel. And so you're looking at residential parcels, that's 403,886, commercial 23,641. This is our total count. So we've already grown from 395 to over 427 in 4 years. And if you ask me now, that number is probably even 428 because we keep having new neighborhoods created every day. Here's Rolesville's. So as of January 1, 24, there's 4,331 residential parcels, 118 commercial parcels, for a total parcel count of about 4,500. So let's talk about revaluation results. In Wake County, residential real property had an overall change of 53% increase in value between 2020 to 2024. And commercial property was 45%. So you're looking at an overall change in real property value of 51% in Wake County. Here's Rolesville's. You guys mirror the numbers. Your commercial's a tad higher as on a percentage basis, but 51% residential, 52% commercial, total change 51%. This slide shows you the percentage change by jurisdiction. So you can see the overall residential change by municipality, the overall commercial change by municipality, and then the overall change. And you can see if you wanted to compare and contrast the different towns and where Rolesville is. Okay. thought it would also be a good idea to share with you a heat map that shows the different areas and what they've changed. So these are various, again, those neighborhoods where we identified properties in similar economic market areas. And then we have a heat map that shows the lighter the color, the lower the change, the deeper green, the higher percentage change. So you're looking at the very dark green is greater than 75% increase in assessed value. And then the next shade down is between 60% and 75%. The darkest colors are going to be in areas like Willow Crest, Watkins Farm, early phases of the village at Rolesville. The rural areas had the lowest increase in assessed value.
So we have some people's houses is going up 75%.
There's averages, but every assessed value is property specific.
But if that's average, then it's at least one or more, 75% or more.
Yes, the areas that heat map in green are going to be, those properties have values of greater than 75%.
So for example, a home that someone purchased for $500,000, for example, right? The tax around 44 to 5,000. Now with the new assessment, you saying 75%?
But that's assessed value, that's not their tax bill.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
property taxes that someone pays is assessed value times property tax rate equals tax bill. And so we are talking about assessed value, and I'm talking with my hands because I don't have a chalkboard.
You're fine.
We're here on assessed value. Your board will adopt your property tax rate that will then determine what your citizens pay in municipal property taxes.
Yes, thank you.
So a good way to look at this is before revaluation, average residential property in Rolesville's value is $357,267. After revaluation, you're looking at $538,017.
Yep.
So that's at assessed value. Now it's up to your board to determine what that property tax rate, are you going to lower it? So, and we'll talk about revenue neutral in a second, but that's the change in value. And that reflects the market. Your commercial tax base went from 114.1 million to 173.5 million. And here's some of the drivers of that value change. Apartments, I know there's 2 apartment complexes in Rolesville that had a large increase, and I think that's based off of some of what's been happening with their market rents,
Yes.
and if they're no longer rent restricted, so there's an impact on that. Mini storage, this is countywide. Everyone is putting stuff in a mini storage unit. So those have increased values. I guess people are moving into apartments, they don't have places to hold all their stuff, and they're putting in all the mini storage. Industrial, retail, and then countywide, this is reflective. Office and restaurants are lower than some of the other uses. In some of the areas of the county, you had office buildings, everyone's working from home now, so they didn't grow as great in value as some other commercial properties. So looking at Rolesville for the percent residential and percent commercial before revaluation and after revaluation, you had your before residential and your after. So you can see it went from 1.35 billion to 2.03 billion. Commercial was 114.1 million to 173.5 million. Your total went from 1.47 to 2.21. But your percent residential to commercial as your overall mix of types did not change. You're still 92.8 and 92.8. This chart shows the municipal total tax bases. Remember, there's the real property plus the other components equals the total tax base. This chart is the total tax base, and it shows the average percentage growth for all the different municipalities. The next slides, I'm going to go through fairly quickly. They're lengthy, but I'd be happy if you have any questions, stop me along the way. I'm going to walk through resources available to the public. And the first thing I want to acknowledge is when you're talking about your specific property and you see notices that talk about your tax value changing, that can be scary. So one of the things we've really targeted is doing a robust public information campaign and being available so any taxpayer, if they have questions, can reach out to our office, speak to an appraiser, get information. We feel that's really important. At your stations, you will see a flyer that talks about the 2024 real estate revaluation. This is included in every notice of assessed value that is being mailed to property owners in Wake County. Those notices of assessed value are going out tomorrow in the mail, and the information, the data, is available online now. It went public around 2:20 this afternoon. Included in this brochure is the same information I shared with you at the beginning. Well, what is revaluation? Why is it important? How did you do it? What's going to happen to my value? Are you going to change it between revaluation cycles? How does this impact my property tax bill? What if I disagree with what you're telling me my value is? How do I file appeal? What are the tax relief programs available to me? And so every person will have one of these in their notices. These are also, we distributed it to all the satellite payment centers, and Rolesville Town Hall is one of those. And so they're outside by your cashier. If somebody comes to talk about paying their property tax bill and has a question or reval, they'll be able to get one of these brochures. We've also really revamped our revaluation website to have very comprehensive information available to the public. We have updated frequently asked questions. We have a button. You just click on appeals. It will walk you through that information. Revaluation statistics, if you have someone really interested about, I want to look at Rolesville's information specifically, you can click revaluation statistics. You can click on a town, and you can see, well, what's the residential property, what's the commercial property, what were the changes. It matches the information that was in this PowerPoint, but any citizen can go and see that information. We have a property search. You can go in, put in your address. Well, what's the information? What does the tax office have on what are my characteristics? And then I'll walk through some of the other tools that are also mentioned on this slide. But really encourage folks to go to wake.gov/revaluation, comprehensive information available about revaluation. This is a new tool for 2024, and this is a residential comparable sales search. So if you go back to here and click comparable sales, it's going to bring you to this tool where you can put in your address, and it's going to put the little red dot, looks like some of the common, like a Zillow or Redfin or whatever. That's your property. Then you'll be able to see the residential sales that happened between 2021 to 2023 that are indicative of market value in your neighborhood. And so homeowners can see, well, what were the market sales that kind of led my appraised value? This is only one component of how we determined assessed value, but you can see what happened in the market that may have influenced how did that impact my property. This is really helpful if someone wasn't in the market to sell their house, right? They haven't been paying attention, but maybe their neighbors have sold, and so now there's the data available for them to see, well, what happened to sales in this area and what happened with the prices that happened to then be used to determine market value for their own individual property. And just for fun, you can see the top is my subject property, and then the others are what's sold in my neighborhood. We also, in 2020, we had a revenue neutral calculator, and we are having that again for 2024. So you were talking just a little bit ago about what happens to the tax rate. So revenue neutral is a budget term, and it basically means the revenue brought in by property taxes in a revaluation year would be approximately the same as if the revaluation had not taken place. And so the county has published a revenue neutral tax rate for the county, and municipalities, if they chose to participate in the tool, also have that municipal rate. What that allows property owners to do is put in their real estate information And it shows what could be the impact to their property-specific information based off of that revenue neutral rate. So if you dropped, right now, the county tax rate is 65.7 cents. And if the county went to a revenue neutral rate, it would go down to 46.43 cents. And so that decrease in property tax rate times the assessed value equals that same amount of money generally that would have been brought in. But that's revenue neutral rate is county-wide. It's, at the end of the day, property taxes are property specific. And so if your assessed value increased more than the countywide average, the impact of revaluation means you're going to pay a little bit more in property tax. If your value increased less than the overall average, you'll probably tend to pay a little bit less in property tax, because revenue neutral means it's systematic, it's town-specific, overall average, county overall average. But this allows citizens to go in and see what could be the impact on their property tax bill. We also have a video about how do you file an appeal. So again, all 427,000 parcels are spot on accurate. But if someone disagrees with their value, they can certainly submit an appeal. And I'll walk you through, there's two types of appeals. There is an appeal that's called an informal review, where a property owner just submits it to the tax office, and the appraiser in our office reviews it and determines if a change is needed or not. Those are due by March 1st. Or there's a formal appeal, and those are between March 2nd and May 15th, and those go to what's called the Board of Equalization and Review. That board reviews that appeal, and the members are appointed by the Board of Commissioners, and they typically have real estate experience, business experience, et cetera, and they're determining whether a change in value is warranted or not. There's no cost to submit an appeal. You don't need to hire, taxpayers could do it, and you could do it in writing, by mail, or you can do it online. In fact, every notice of assessed value that goes out has a paper form if they want to submit and mail back in an appeal. And that information that's on the paper form is the same thing that's asked online. And the video walks you through how to do either way, which one you want to submit. Finally, on the very back of your brochure, we have a small tidbit about tax relief, because we know growth in assessed values and rapid growth in a community can be hard for folks who have limited income. And so we wanted to point out the 3 property tax relief programs that are available. And those are the Seniors and Disabled Program, the Circuit Breaker Program, and the Disabled Veterans Program. Now, all these programs are the same in all 100 counties in North Carolina. And the requirements of what can qualify for tax relief are the same for all 100 counties in North Carolina. So for the Seniors and Disabled Program, you have to be 65 years of age and older, or anyone who's totally and permanently disabled, and your total household income has to be $36,700 or less during 2023. And if that is the case and you apply and you are approved, you can have 50% off your home value, or $25,000. Most people, it's going to be 50%. That's going to be greater than the $25,000. Is reduced off of the value that's taxed. For a circuit breaker, the tax deferment program, again, you have to be 65 years of age or older, or anyone totally and permanently disabled, and you have to own and occupy your home for the last 5 years. The gross income requirement is $55,050 or less during 2023. And then your taxes are capped as a percentage based off of your income. So your taxes are limited to 4% of your income if your income is $36,700 or less, or your taxes are limited to 5% of your income if your gross income is between $36,700 and $55,050, and the remaining taxes that are deferred for 3 years. We also, the North Carolina authorizes a disabled veterans program. Veterans of any age with a total and permanent service-connected disability can qualify for this program. There's no age requirement, and their home value is reduced by $45,000. So here's the remaining revaluation schedule. You guys are seeing the results. You're one of the first towns to see the results. They were presented to the Board of Commissioners today at 2, like Amy said, and the results are live. Notices are going to start being put in the mail tomorrow. There's a lot of notices to be mailed, so they will probably trickle through the post office over the next couple of days. Homeowners should expect to be seeing their notices between the 18th and, say, the 22nd. The deadline, again, for property owners to file that informal review is March 1st. The Board of Equalization review is going to convene in April and start reviewing appeals. The deadline for a formal appeal is May 15th. And then through the fall, our board will be reviewing all timely filed appeals. If any of your constituents have questions, please encourage them to call our fully staffed call center at 857-3800. That's area code 919. By calling that number, an appraiser will answer the phone and will answer questions about, well, what is my value? How is it determined? What property characteristics do you have on file? Et cetera. They'll be able to look at our data. Maybe somebody goes, well, my assessed values, you told me that I have 2,800 square foot, but my house is only 2,100 square foot. Have that conversation with the appraiser and walk through that. If someone doesn't want to call on the phone, they can send a dedicated email address to revaluation@wake.gov. An appraiser is going to answer that email. And then also, we're staffed in the office. If someone wants to venture to downtown Raleigh, we're here in the Justice Center if someone wants to talk to an appraiser. With that, that's all the specific information I have to present. I'm happy to try to answer any questions.
Sorry. 2 questions. One question is, for some of the veterans with the total and permanent, there have been rumor mill that sometime either late this summer or fiscal year, that 45,000 tax exclusion is going to be changed to 100,000. Is that true?
I don't have the T writing on the wall of what the General Assembly is going to do. It's all 100 counties are subject to the Machinery Act, and that value is what is established by state law.
Okay, yeah, this part of that organization that I'm with, and that's exactly what they're proposing.
It would have to be adopted by the General Assembly. And so there's been several property tax relief bills that have been filed in recent years. It's up to the General Assembly to change that amount.
Okay, and my second question is, for homeowners, 'cause during COVID, a lot of us had honey-do lists. So of course, additions to homes, renovations, things like that, of course, could change square footage of your home, increasing your home value for resale. Some homes you purchased for $500, now selling for $850, especially with your additions. So what do you recommend for homeowners that are staying in their current home, not gonna resell, but have additions to get their home reevaluated? So that,
Any data, if there is a data discrepancy, we definitely contact our office. I can talk through a personal experience because I was the one that gave a honey to-do list, right? So during the pandemic, as I was sitting in my house every day, and I was like, I'm getting a screen porch. I'm not gonna look in this house day after day and not get to go anywhere without it. So talked to the husband and was like, okay, we're getting a screen porch. So a building permit had to be taken out for that.
yes,
We receive all the building permit activity from all the towns. And then we'll have an appraiser come out and add that to your property information. And so if you had an addition in square footage, there should have been a notice sent to that property owner that said, okay, your value is this, we noticed you added this square foot. At the same time, maybe something was missed, or maybe the number that got recorded on the building permit was something different than what actually happened with that homeowner. Look at the property characteristics that you see at wake.gov/revaluation property search, put in your information.
yes, ma'am.
If something doesn't jive, call our office. We'll have an appraiser talk to you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If someone does assessment and they ask, how successful, do you have a success rate of appeals?
So I can share, during 2020, we had about 4.4% of our properties do a request for an informal review. The rule of thumb is between 5 and 10%. And so, 2020, you acknowledge a lot of people are sitting at home, so that we feel pretty good with that percentage of appeals, based off of how many people were at home just looking at their notice and like, oh, I have time to actually submit something, so.
Okay.
Any follow-up, Amy? Well, I'm sure we'll be talking internally about this, and we got your card, so we'll have someone calling you if we get some questions, but
And the cards
You
we
know.
left with you, in addition to the brochure, if a citizen comes to you and says, I have this question, hand them that card. My boss talks about, there was that old American Express commercial that says, don't leave home without it. Keep your cards with you, because that way, if someone comes up to you and starts complaining about their assessed value, you can go, here's that number, call them. And I have more if y'all want to hire staff, or just call our office and we'll get you more up, we'll get some delivered.
We will definitely need more.
thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said we will definitely need more.
Oh, yes.
I was making a joke, but I was jokingly serious. And I know this is something that we're going to encounter, so I'm going to try to equip any of our staff that are out and about, because typically the people that get the questions are the ones who answer the phone, and also the people who ride around with Rolesville on their truck. And so the community doesn't care. They're going to ask who they're going to ask based off what you are. So I want to equip our public works guys and Parks and Recreation staff as they're out and about, because I know they'll likely get some questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. Okay, next item we got on the agenda is the Rural Fire Department. We're looking at a budget presentation, I think. Amy, you kicking that one off too?
Mayor Kern.
Or I
Mayor
will
Kern.
transition over and do
Commissioner,
the introduction.
Commissioner Long is now online.
You had a question?
We noted him as absent at the beginning of the meeting. We need to note him as present and participating remotely, and then confirm that he can hear and be heard.
Okay. All right. Robin, I think the attorney is asking to make sure we note that Commissioner Long is present by video. And Linwood, can you hear us okay? Yeah, can you let us know if we can hear you?
Linwood, can you talk back to us?
Robin, I think the attorney is asking to make sure we note that Commissioner Long is present by video. And Linwood, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you let us know if we can hear you?
I can hear you fine. If you can't hear me, is the problem. You sound wonderful.
It's a big delay, yeah. Linwood, can you talk back to us?
I am talking back as loud as I can. You can't hear me?
We're good.
Asking to make sure we note that. Yeah, it's delayed.
It is delayed.
Okay, thank you, Linwood. We could hear you. I think it is on a delay, so it does confuse you a
Okay.
little bit there, but thank you.
Okay, but you can't hear me, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
we
All right,
can.
cool. Thank you.
All right. Amy, you going to start presenting the fire department kickoff?
Yes, sir, just briefly give you an introduction about the item and then quickly turn things over to Chief Lawrence. But the Rolesville Rural Fire Department is an important community partner for the town. This private nonprofit corporation provides fire service within the corporate limits, as well as in the wider Rolesville Fire District. Because this is an external organization, and because the funding methods can be quite complex, and because Wake County is one of our other partners in this endeavor, has an earlier budget process. We thought this would be a good time to go ahead and bring forward to you a presentation. It's got 3 segments. The chief will start first with a history and overview of the department. I'll jump in briefly to talk about funding sources, and then the chief will be back to talk about their budget request for FY '24-25, which they submitted to the county last week. It all runs together after a while, yeah. So with that, I will go ahead and turn things over to Chief Lawrence.
All right, thank you, Amy. All right, good evening, Mayor and Board. Glad to be here. So just wanted to bring you up to speed on this. It looks like a long presentation, but I'm going to try to go through these slides pretty quick. There's, I don't know, 30-some slides, I think, but we're going to get through it. And I just want to bring you up to speed because I think we have new commissioners, and it might be a review for some of you and going to be something new for some of the other ones. But so I wanted you to have this packet so you could review it in the future and look back and say, oh, this is where the fire department, what we were, what we are, and basically where we've been and where we're going type thing. So we'll go ahead and run through this. But as you see on this first slide, let me see, Amy, I got to hit the down arrow on this next one.
Page up, page down.
What's that? Page up, page down? Okay. There you go. So, like I say, we were established in 1958, June 3rd, and I think several of you were at the 65-year anniversary and back in June of 2023, and yeah, we were proud to have that 65-year anniversary for sure. So, but let's see. So this, just a quick overview. What this covers, it's going to cover some of the history, community events, our board of directors. We wanted you to know who is Rolesville Fire Department, who are the members, who are the officers, who are the board of directors. And just so you know, I do have Edna Allison here. She's our office administrative. She handles all the paperwork up there. And Frank Pierce is our secretary of treasurer. And as I've mentioned several times, he's been secretary of treasurer for 52 years. So that's quite a long time to be in one spot. So that just kind of covers this. Our paid staff, volunteers. We'll go into the budget requests that we submitted last week to the county, and also submitted them to Finance Director Amy Stevens last week, and we reviewed those last week also. So this is our history. Again, we're serving Rolesville and Wake County for 65 years, from 1958 to 2023, and this just actually shows our old trucks and our new trucks and our 65 years of, this is actually one of our throws that we had made for our 65-year anniversary. This is our board, just thought we'd add that in, kind of so you can put some faces with names. We have 13 paid staff, 36 volunteers. Up top is our officers. Bottom of this is our board of directors. And then we have, we didn't have all 36 volunteers in this picture, and I don't know if we would have fit them all in if they all showed up anyways. But that's our staff and volunteers and our board of directors there, okay? So this also shows that we're not just a fire department. We do a lot of fire, we do a lot of EMS, we also do a lot of community events. This is actually a picture of our Fall Fun Fest, and we do set our ladder truck up as a blocking unit for Fall Fun Fest, July 4th, that type of thing, to keep, public safety, and we work closely with Rolesville PD to handle a lot of community events. So. This is a list of our board of directors, so if you see them on the street, you'll know who's who. Our chairman is Spence Jones, Jerry Edens is our vice chairman. Then we have Richard Bartholomew, Herbert Holding, Willard Horton, Dennis Perry, our board members, Frank Pierce and Edna Allison, our administrators. This is our list of officers, and all of our officers, it's a combined paid staff and volunteers, and you'll see down through here, we have a chief, division chief, who's here Monday through Friday. Battalion chiefs are in service nights and weekends. Our captains are ABC shift, and then so on, and you can read through those. But we have quite a few officers, but it takes quite a few to keep things flowing for the volunteer paid staff and volunteer combination department. So here's another community event. Just saw this, a good picture. This gentleman, young man, he was enjoying his Rice Krispie treat with his dog, so I think the dog was waiting for him to drop it, but he did pretty good and held on to it. So this is another item that I think is some pretty good information for those that aren't familiar with Rolesville. Again, we had 13 paid staff, and we actually, 2024, we had one volunteer move, and we have several more, I think about 4 or 5 applicants that already applied, but we're down to 35 volunteers, and all of our paid staff are firefighters and EMTs, and we have several, all volunteers are firefighter certified, and several are EMT certified. So, and you just see there, you can read through this and see that there's the schedules, the shifts work 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., they're ABC shift, and then we do have the battalion chief, as I mentioned, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So with that, the paid staff and volunteers work very well together, and we do need the volunteers just as much as we need the paid staff. If we didn't have the volunteers to continue on, we would definitely need a whole lot more paid staff. But paid staff are definitely, yeah, there's 4 of them on per shift, but with the volunteers, volunteers help handle numerous calls while the paid staff are, you know, working together to get the trucks out. So, and just so you know, Rolesville Fire Department, we had over 9,500 hours of training for 2023, and that's a lot of hours. So there's just some of our training we were doing on a facility out in Bunn. This is more training with our ladder truck. This here is our Rolesville Fire Department district. This is the area that we serve, and you can see everything in green is town of Rolesville area that we serve. Everything in gray is the county area, and as Amy mentioned, we work closely with the county, work closely with the town for our contracts, and right now we have you know, the districts right here highlighted in green. We're serving this area. It's about 31 point, let me go to the next slide and see, 31.3 square miles that we're serving with 1 fire station. So as we get towards the end of the slide, I'll bring up about the future fire stations that we need, okay? Yeah. So as you can see, the square miles for the county district is 24.2, and the town district that we serve is 7.1. Our calls for service have increased. This is 2020 through 2023. 2020, we had 1,086 calls. This year, we had the most calls we've ever had at Rolesville, was 1,354 calls. That's a combination of fire and EMS. These are the calls for service. So as you can see, in 2023, we had 856 EMS calls and 498 fire calls. This is our locations in town, out of town, or out of district, and then our rural. So in 2023, we had 719 calls were in the town of Rolesville's limits. 424 were in the county, and 211 were mutual aid to other fire departments. So we do run a lot of mutual aid with other departments, meaning Wake Forest is probably the most we run with, and we run with Hopkins, New Hope, Wendell, Zebulon, several, a little bit of Raleigh too. So one thing we had here in this slide is we didn't count for the 227 calls that were out of district, so I just kind of threw that in there. That just shows you where that is, and that leads into our next slide. These are the mutual aid departments, so when you take those 227 calls, you can tell you where we ran. We ran with Hopkins, Nightdale, City of Raleigh, New Hope, as I just mentioned, Wake Forest, Zebulon, and Wendell, and that's, we give out 211 calls. We were running mutual aid with other departments, so. And we actually gave more mutual aid than we received, which was amazing this year too. So this tells you the calls by incident. There's 856 EMS calls, 498 were fire and other. This kind of just breaks down your calls. You can see the blue area is 856 EMS calls. Then we have the other incident types, such as, you know, overpressure, gas explosions. Or explosions. It's more or less gas lines getting hit. Hazardous conditions. We've had, with the new construction, we get a lot of gas lines hit and people placing driveways and not getting the proper locates handled. But, you know, we had 55 fires, service calls, fire alarms, false alarms. Good intent calls can be anything from carbon monoxide alarms to smoke detectors, and, you know, it might be just a lift assist helping somebody that's fallen out of bed, but that's where our good intent calls come from. So this was just a structure fire that we had earlier, or late last summer over off Burlington Mills Road. And this, I thought this was good. This is what people see when we're not there. This was, the neighbor took this picture and sent it to me, and this happened to be a garage fire. We got there and we, you know, mitigated the situation and put it out. This is another situation over in Granite Crest. Actually, it was a lightning strike about 3 o'clock in the morning, and there's a young lady, teenager, sleeping in her bed and happened to see after the storm went through, saw flames coming out of the ceiling, and thankfully she woke up and saw that. But this was us after everything was done, and we were actually putting tarps on the roof and cleaning up here. But, you know, that's just some more on-scene, what we do as Rolesville Fire Department. Here's a heat map that we have. This shows where most of our calls are. And the big orange is mostly EMS calls, and that's mostly at the Grand. So the Grand and Hunter Falls, that's where you're gonna get that, right? The other one out, we see Sunset Manor, that's the high school. We get a lot of calls, several calls for different things over at the high school. Mostly of them are medical related, so that's where that is. The Barron Place or Highway 96, 401, we had a lot of incidents at 96 and 401. That heat map might be a tad bit off. It was more so right at the intersection during the construction phases of that intersection. We had a lot of wrecks out there due to just the way the signs were, and I worked with DOT, and actually Chief Simmons and myself worked together with DOT to help get those signs corrected to keep from having more incidents out there. So department funding, I guess this is where I'm going to turn this back to Finance Director Amy Stevenson, and then we'll go from there. Did I make it?
Tag team.
All right.
All right. So how does the fire department receive its funding? I thought the good graphic for this, the visual, is a three-legged stool. To put together their budget and their funding, it takes three parties, that is Wake County, the town of Rolesville, and the Rolesville Rural Fire Department. So it's important that we all work together, we communicate well. I think we do all communicate well and have a good working relationship. It's important for all three of those parties because a significant part of their funding is funded by Wake County and the town of Rolesville. It's important that we all coordinate together on what the requests are and agree to what's being funded during the year. I'm actually going to do my slides a little out of order after sitting there thinking about this. Let's talk a little bit about the revenue sources. So about 99% of the rural fire department's revenues come from public taxpayer dollars. So it's a combination of Wake County's contributions as well as the town of Rolesville's. So I've got this slide divided in two halves. Let's talk about the county share first. How does the county fund their portion of what they provide to the fire department? And they do that through what is called the Unified Fire Tax District. This is, now if you look at some counties, there's like a bunch of different fire tax districts, right? Each department has its own tax district. That's not what they do in Wake County. It's a unified tax district for all unincorporated areas and the town of Wendell. They take the revenues from that single tax district and they distribute it out to those who serve area within unincorporated areas of the county. Okay, so in a lot of cases, that means they're cost sharing with a municipal department or a municipality. So they fund it through the Unified Tax District. In Rolesville, Rolesville funds their portion of the cost share for the fire department out of general fund revenues. Okay. How does the fire department receive its money? For operations costs, so this is by and large salaries and kind of the day-to-day operations, the power, the water, copy paper, right, that kind of thing. That approved budget that comes through the budget process gets divided by 12, and they get 12 monthly payments to cover the cost share for operations. It works out well, particularly for payroll, so there's not any fluctuations, and that way they can make payroll without issue. Capital and debt payments, what they do is they purchase it up front, and then once the payment is made, they submit reimbursement to the county and we're doing the same, they submit it to the town. So whatever that cost share distribution is between the county and the town, again, they pay up front and they get reimbursed based on who's paying for that capital or debt service. Okay? So the cost share is pretty complex. Wake County has a model that they have developed. It has a number of components. Let's see, it includes calls for service, acreage served, property values. I think there's one or two other components that go into that cost share percentage. And that's what they use to determine for any fire department, how much is the county going to fund and how much should the municipality fund. And so you can see for the cost share model the last several years, Rolesville's cost share has been slowly increasing year after year. When you look at those calls for service that we saw earlier from the chief, the number of calls in town is increasing as a greater percentage of calls that they answer. And so it all makes sense, right? Rolesville is growing. We're taking up a bigger area as we annex areas in the unincorporated part of the county. We have more residents driving more calls. So it makes sense that that cost share model continues to increase year after year. As far as the budget process itself, it starts with the fire department. They come together and present a budget proposal. They submit that to the county. Again, the county's process starts a little earlier than Rolesville's, so they've already submitted that. In the county, it goes through staff review. They have a fire commission with some budget subcommittees. It's quite an involved process. Ultimately, it ends up with the Wake County Board of Commissioners for their approval. On the town side, it's very similar. Finance staff look at it, town manager review, as well as ultimately what the town funds comes before you, the Rolesville Board of Commissioners. So that county and town process are sort of happening in parallel. So as I turn things over to the chief to talk about what's in their request for 24-25, just keep in mind, we have a lot of time ahead of us. And so we'll be working through that both on the county side and on the town side over the next several months as we go through our budget process. The county goes through their budget process as well. So no decisions need to be made tonight. He's just going to present to you what it is that they're requesting for this year.
Thank you, Amy. All right. Yeah, so like I say, we started on the budget. We had to have it in by last Friday, the 12th, and I believe it was Wednesday, the 10th we had it in. So, yeah, so like I say, we start on it in November and work on it through December, and then try to get the final numbers in January and get it submitted pretty early for Wake County. So, so let's see. So this is our FY25 budget, and you can see most of our increases, especially on our operations, was due to inflationary costs. We had several items, just insurances, supply chain costs, vendor costs, utilities, et cetera. Everything's gone up, right? So, so anyway, that's where our operation budgets. That's where that's coming in from, and the expansion request, and that'll be shown to you at a later date, I'm sure. I'm sure once you get to that, you'll see where we were with those numbers. But our expansion requests are on personnel. We're looking for 6 full-time firefighters, mainly to handle our ladder company and handle our rescue company. And again, we're increasing call volumes. We have 4 people per shift with a division chief Monday through Friday, so there's 5 there. But our concurrent calls are up to 227 calls in 2023. That's the most concurrent calls we've had. And when I mean concurrent, meaning the paid staff 4 are already out on another call, whether it's in town or out of the town or even a mutual aid call, but we'll have another call or sometimes 2 calls. So, that's where the volunteers are picking up and handling those concurrent calls. And, we actually have a situation coming up this weekend. We have one firefighter on Sunday is on vacation. That's going to be in Florida. Another one that's got to have surgery. I just found out today. So that leaves us with 2 full-time firefighters on Sunday, and that's kind of makes it tight. But we are also looking for some more part-time firefighters, and we have 3 part-time right now, and we're looking for a 4th that we can. Usually they can come in, they'll work 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or sometimes 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. anytime, Monday through Friday, or even on the weekends when we need them. But it's nice to have them there and be able to fund them to pay for them.
Chief, will 6 be enough, especially with the growth of our numbers?
6 would be a great start. To put 2 more per shift, that would give us 6 people per shift. That's what we're looking for. That way we can get our ISO rating. We need to get the first engine out with staff with 4 people and be on scene within 7 minutes, and that's within our 5-mile district. So that would be a start. That way we can get the rescue truck out or the ladder truck, whatever's needed. So yes, that would, I won't ever say it'll be enough, but it'll definitely be a start, okay? Is that fair enough? So,
You
so
don't
that-
budget for volunteers increase then?
So our volunteers what our volunteers, we have a part-time stipend. We pay them once a year in December, usually the first Thursday in December, and they get paid for the number of calls that they run. And they, that works out good, one payment a year. And I will say the payments for the volunteers don't even equal up to the starting salary of a full-time career firefighter. So, like I said, we had 36 volunteers last year, and what we paid out to the volunteers was roughly about $9,000 less than just the starting salary of one full-time career staff.
But if you did increase them, you would need more equipment though, right?
For the full-time staff?
Volunteer. You wouldn't
No, we need to get the trucks out of the bays. That's what we need, and we have the trucks, we have the equipment. We would definitely need to get some more turnout gear and that type of thing, but yeah.
That's what
So-
that means right there, personnel and equipment, right?
That's correct, yes.
It's the turnout gear is kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah, so yeah, we have, and like I say, if we go with 6 more, we talk about more, of course, you're gonna have the pay, you're gonna have the benefits, you're gonna have the turnout gear, and then you're gonna have their uniforms, and, that's gonna be a whole item. The volunteers, basically, we bring the volunteers in, we have approximately $16,000 worth of gear that, they have, well, let me say, their turnout gear is roughly about $4,000, $4,500 just for their gear, boots, gloves, that type of thing. And then we do have the air packs on the trucks that they would use. So each volunteer has approximately, $4,000 to $5,000 per volunteer to add turnout gear. But yeah, so, and like I say, we do have more volunteers signing up. So like I say, we'll be probably adding some more, and we don't have a cap per se on it. We're gonna try to we've always held it around 35. We don't have a cap on volunteers. We're gonna try to get it up to about 40 and see where we stand with that number of volunteers. So, but we do, it's getting harder and harder on the volunteers too, and they're trying to work a job and have a family and that type of thing. But to have more career staff on staff 7 days a week would definitely be a start. So that's what we have. We have the request in for 6 full-time, and our thoughts were is 2 per shift. That would give us 6 per shift, ABC shift. That's where that would come in. Then we had a set of hydraulic extrication equipment, and I put in Jaws of Life. I think everybody's seen Jaws of Life on TV, and that just kind of tells what it is. But that equipment can run anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000. It's just the cutters, the ram, the equipment we need to do extrication on mostly motor vehicle accidents. So that was our expansion request. And we do have some facility repairs, as you'll see up there. We've actually never had a dishwasher in the fire station. Everybody's washed dishes by hand for all these years, but we're trying to get a dishwasher installed. We do have a dryer that needs to be replaced. That's not the dryer we use for our turnout gear and so on. That's the dryer that we use for just commercial station, clothing, and so on and so forth. So yeah, and that one is 15 years old, and we had it repaired not long ago, and it's beyond economical repair, but hopefully we can get a new dryer to replace that. Then we had some doors and windows, seals, insulation. We have airlines. Airlines keep airline on the truck, so any vehicle that has airlines need to have air to it. So when you start that truck, it's ready to roll. You don't have to wait for the air brakes to pump up. That way the truck is ready to roll, and you're not losing 2-3 minutes per truck waiting for it to get out of the station. And ours are pretty old. They're deteriorating, and we've had to fix them and repair them quite a bit, but we've put in a request for that too. So. And then also our substations, we've talked about these. We purchased land in 2016 on Burlington Mills Road and also Old Pierce Road. And then in 2018, we purchased the property at Fowler Road and Mitchell Mill Road, and that is for the substations. And we've talked about these with the county, and we've put in the expansion request for a few years now. And the growth is coming, and the numbers are increasing to start taking a look. And we do have a lot of fire departments being built in the southern part of Wake County, Apex, Garner, Fuquay, Varina. Morrisville just built a fire station, so they're looking to build one out in northern Wake right now. But we have quite a few stations going up, but the density and the population in this area is really starting to grow, and, you know, we're gonna have to start taking a look at getting these new stations on the ground, so.
Chief, out of all three, which one do you see as a priority of being built
So
first?
that, and we've talked about that for many, many years, and, you know, Burlington Mills Road was kind of the hot spot for a little while, but right now, probably Fowler Road and Mitchell Mill Road with everything that's going on along the you know, Rolesville Road, East Young Street, from the bypass all the way to Mitchell Mill. If you turn left on Mitchell Mill, we've got subdivision Rolesville crossings there. If you turn right, we've got annexed all the way down to Jonesville Road and then up Jonesville. So that end of the district on Fowler Road, would, you know, we could do some more studies on that and see, but that would probably be one of the #1 spots at Mitchell Mill and Fowler.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
And you didn't mention the rebuild of the existing station.
No, we didn't. This is, so we did do a study on that, Mayor Curran, you're right. And we did a study in 2022 on the current station that we have, and to bring that up to what they call NFPA, National Fire Standards, and ADA compliance. Okay. It would also be, it was, I think, I want to say it come in around 11 to 13 million, and it would be actually more cost effective to build a new station than to renovate or rebuild the current station. And the current station was built in 1980, and I appreciate, thank you for all the concrete repair bill that we just had approved at your last meeting. But yeah, we had some issues. When that station was built, we weren't planning on 70,000-pound ladder trucks, and, you know, that concrete was good for the days of what it did back in 1980 all the way to 2023, but that ladder truck in and out did start working on that concrete, so we had to replace that. And so you're right, there is, I didn't put that in there because that's I don't think that's an expansion request. That's just another assessment that we already have in progress with the consultants that have brought that forward. So I think we'd have to revisit that on the consultant side before we put in an expansion request to
Just another
decide.
need.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. A lot of moving parts to it, there always is, so yeah.
Along the line, Fire Chief, along the lines of that is, how many ladder trucks do we have right now?
We just have one ladder truck in Rolesville, yes.
We're looking at an increase in multi-story buildings in the town as well. Will
Yes.
that require additional ladder truck?
Additional down the road, yes, we would, yep. Right now, we can get by with the one ladder we have. And we do, we will have automatic mutual aid for ladder truck from Wake Forest when needed. And we have that on our pre-plans, it's already set up. If we have just say like the Grand or the apartments, Hunter Falls Apartments, that we have another ladder coming from them automatically currently, so. But, yeah, there will be need for another ladder truck eventually, yes, yep. So that's with our substations, and we did this rendering, and that's what our substations would look like. Just a quick view, that's something that we put together several, I'm guessing 4 years ago now, maybe a little, somewhere around the 2019 timeframe, so that's 5 years ago already, isn't it? Wow, where's time going? But yeah, so that would be what the next stations or the future stations or substations, however you want to call them, out on Burlington Mills Road, Old Pierce Road, and Fowler Mitchell Mill Road. That's what they would look like. And a new, as Mayor Curran was talking about, a new central station would look a whole lot different than this, so, yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm seeing in the new stations has to do with decontamination type stuff.
Yes, and these have it. These are all
these do
set up,
have it.
yep. You have a
The existing
decontamination.
don't have it, does it?
Our existing does not, nope. And I don't know if you noticed it, the dinner the other night when you were there, but we've got signs up says no
Don't go
turnout
here.
here beyond this point, so.
Right, I saw
So we actually had a cancer awareness is huge in the fire service right now. As a lot of firefighters are getting cancer, a lot of them have, you know, passed from cancer, and you know, so now they're doing a huge initiative on cancer awareness. And we actually, Rolesville, we were selected about 4 years ago. We burned a house over off 98. NC State came out. When we came out of the fire, they were wiping our necks, putting them in Ziploc bags, just trying to see that at that point in time, we ordered what they call carbon particulate hoods, where we wear the hoods. It's supposed to protect your neck and thyroid, because we're getting a lot of firefighters with thyroid cancer and that type of thing. But the cancer awareness, that's that's why we put those signs up, no turnout gear in the living quarters, because when you come back from a call, your first thing you want to do is run in and get a shower, but undress out in the bay, kind of clean off, rinse off best you can, go in and get a shower, and then we'll get the trucks back in service. Yep. So, but yeah, so I think that was, yeah, so that's everything we had there. And like I say, hopefully everybody has my number. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to call me, and usually available. I'm almost 24/7, but yeah, call me anytime. I'm more than happy to discuss and talk with anybody.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you for all you do.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Amy. Good job. Oh, this is mine.
You got any follow-up comments, Amy?
No, sir, other just to reiterate, we can talk more as we go through our budget sessions. We do have that budget workshop on February 20th. Should be a big agenda, but we'll have plenty of time in the coming months to talk through.
During that workshop, will we know decisions from Wake County? Maybe?
We usually hear from Wake County, I think it's usually first, second, third week of February. We should know by then what the county is interested in supporting and what they are not. They've told us multiple times, they are data-driven when they come to decision-making. So they really look at the numbers behind what they do to make their decisions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief. Thank you guys for coming. Item 3 is updates from the farm park. I think I see June coming up.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor, and good evening, Commissioners. Me and Eddie, we're going to come to you today. Here we go, Eddie. Here you go. We can come tonight to give y'all an update on the farm park. Hold on a second. I started to look at my paper and I realized I couldn't see it. Let me try it again. The farm park, which is Rolesville's newest recreation area, consists of a combination of recreation facilities, including baseball, softball, and multi-purpose fields, as well as an indoor-outdoor event space, a dog park, and a agritourism area. The master plan process has revealed that the farm park has the potential to be a regional destination for a diversity of users. The master plan for this 116-acre park was completed in 2020, and 30% construction drawings were completed in July 2021. After a year-and-a-half long process, which started in July 2022, the construction drawings and bid package for the entrance to the farm park, Fraser Farm, are near completion. The entrance to the farm includes the addition of 2 turning lanes on Lewisboro Road with all the accompanying North Carolina DOT required road improvements, and also gravel road and parking lot that will run through all the front section of this future park. The construction of turning lanes, roads, and parking lot will make the park accessible to the public and allow staff to start programming this park. These improvements will also facilitate the development of the rest of the park. So right now, we're at a process of, we've gone through some of the drawings.
You saying talk to the mic?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought my voice was loud enough. I'm sorry. We was actually have gone through some of the preliminaries, and with DOT and with the review committee of some of the stuff that need to be fixed. And so we've gotten along, and we've kind of gotten to a point now where we kind of ready to move along with this. At this time, I'm going to turn over to Eddie, since he's been here dealing with this project since the beginning, and he has more of the technical side of it. So I'm turning over to Eddie at this point.
All right, thank you. So our idea was, since we have 2 new members of the board, and also we haven't talked about the farm in a little bit. I know we've kind of talked about it outside of this meetings, but we wanted to just give a quick update. So that was the idea for today. And as June said, I've been involved with this. We signed a contract with our civil engineering company, McAdams, back in July 2022. So this has been a year and a half in the works to finally get it to the point where we are ready to go ahead and start this. Unfortunately, JG and Kelly, who also knew a lot about this project before I started back in May or April of 2022, they're no longer here, so I am the veteran at the moment. So I've been kind of filling in June as we've gone along. I know Eric knows, we've been filling Eric in as well. And I know, of course, McAdams, of course, they've got plenty of historical knowledge of this project as well. But basically, we are at the point now where we're ready to start. just to give you a quick, just for the new members of the board, and also for if you're anyone else who's interested or just is kind of trying to struggle to remember exactly where we are. This is the, as I referenced in the memo, the master plan. So we have all that June just described, and this road that we're talking about, and can you, I think you can, oops, I don't know if I can, I need a pointer for that. But anyway, it's going to be that first road, the 2 right-hand turn lanes, and then that big, the first gravel road coming into the park, and then that parking lot right behind the house. So it would just be that. Would not be the larger parking lot where all the ball fields are, would not be all those additional roads, would not be also that additional road going out to 96. So we are focusing, and I know this is small, I have all of this if you'd like to see it closer and just more of a zoom in, and I'll get to that in just a little bit, but we're just focusing on those 2 top squares, just the entrance and the exit. So essentially you could come in on one side and go out on the other side, or go in on the other side if you wanted to go to, for instance, like the dog park, which is farther north. All right, and again, this is just more of the close-ups. A lot of the costs of this project are going to be making improvements to 401. So we're not just improving our own site, but also the road to get to the park. And so the idea was to go ahead and it's not going to be entirely paved. A lot of this road is going to be gravel, because we don't want to come in and completely pave it to start off with, because then we still have to develop the rest of the park, and then you're bringing in all these trucks and equipment, and you wind up just tearing up the road again. So the idea was to, of course, make the road improvements that we need to get people into the park, and then also the construction, the equipment into the park. And so that would be the road itself in 401, and then the entrance on each side. So the rest of it, as you can kind of see, and again, I don't have I actually can see that. So right about here will be the cutoff point where we'd go from asphalt to gravel. And I'll show you the other side. So again, this is where it would be, all this would be asphalt, and then right around this point we'd switch to gravel. So a large part of this past year and a half has been working with DOT to have them finally approve these 2 additional entrances, since it is a major road. And we have that approval. We're just waiting on a few more, and I'll get into a status update in just a little bit. We're just waiting on a few more little minor things on our construction documents before we're finally ready to go to bid. So we also have, as part of the town, for all new development projects, we have our TRC review that we do. So really all that's waiting on approval for both NCDOT, and then the TRC review is just the NCDOT comments, and they're basically just a few different little minor things that McAdams is going to change, and then we should be ready to go. On the town side, what we're currently working on, as I mentioned, is just kind of bringing Eric up to speed where we are with this project. We're at the point now where we are reviewing our bid documents. So once DOT comments are all cleared, we are ready to go and hit the ground running. The one remaining thing that we have, and if you've read the memo already, there is the cost for this project. So we had, as part of the budget process for 2022, or for this fiscal year, the current fiscal year, we had reached out to McAdams and gotten a cost estimate. This is December of 2022. And they had let us know that it was going to be around $500,000 for this project. So we have had a good amount of inflation in the past year. There have been other things that, and we will get into, we're inviting McAdams to come and kind of do a deep dive on exactly what changed in the cost, but we're currently looking at now 1.2 million. It's a lot.
Yeah, that's
so
150% markup.
Yeah,
it is a lot.
140.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot to that. It's part of it is inflation. The other part is that McAdams had done an internal review, internal cost estimate, and now they did a third-party cost estimate, and it's significantly higher. So we've been in discussion with them, and we are going to have them come back in and just do a deep dive for y'all and show you exactly this is what happened. But that's what we're looking at. We wanted to just start that conversation. Everything is lined up to be ready to go. We need to talk about the money. So
So I have one question.
Sure.
So that third-party review, is that something that they should have done before they came to us with their estimate in the first place?
Probably.
We can ask them when they come.
Okay.
Because I really, inflation since '22 has not been that much.
Not.
It was pre-22
double,
is when
yes.
all the inflation, I mean, if it was made in '20, I could see that. But,
In just less than 2 years.
yeah, it's been
In a year and a half.
Few months.
So
months.
are we committed to the point where we can't look at another construction company to submit a bid?
So we haven't gone to bid yet. This is just these companies, these consultants giving us their best idea of what it's going to cost. McAdams has told us that they do believe that the third party is estimating high, but again, they don't want to say for sure that's going to be the case. You always want to shoot high, and then they didn't shoot high back when they gave us that estimate last year.
Yeah, we'll put it out to bid, and it's 3 bids at a minimum, right? I think TOT is not involved in this one, though, so I don't
In
think.
terms of going to bid, no, this is
So
our
with DOT,
project.
you required a certain number of bids.
Okay.
But I think we require about 3, I think.
Good, yeah.
So,
Yes, we will, we require 3 bids to actually go. But what they are telling us is that they actually messed up in that 500 one. And where it should have been is kind of where we are at now. So I don't know how much lower it's going to go past that, but I think it's going to be somewhere close to that. And that's just about as honest as I can be, straightforward, and that's what I told McAdams. And so the third-party company that actually came in and did the analysis, that's what they do. That's their job, is to go out and get these prices. So when McAdams had did it themselves,
Understood.
So what we're talking about is independent of the road improvements, or is that included in the?
It's everything.
It is everything. Okay.
That's the whole kit caboodle.
Okay.
The turning lanes for both entrances, the driveway in, the parking lot, it includes all that.
Is that your question, or are you referring to everything?
No, that's, yeah.
Did NCDOT have any issues with an in-out at 2 different locations that close together?
No, and that part of the whole they had to go before a controlled access committee and and that was actually much earlier last year. So that's been approved for a while.
Okay.
There's just a few other things in terms of like the roads within our park and all of that they still had to address and kind of resolve with McAdams. But there weren't any issues with that.
Okay. All right.
So
Yeah, I'd like to
they
hear-
didn't oppose it initially?
Me too.
Okay.
yeah, I like to hear I mean, if they had said, well, we just thought it was going to be just one, and then we kind of based an estimate on just one turn, because, we didn't know for a while, well, it could be 2, right? But that's not the case. They just missed it, didn't?
So that's what we're going to invite them. They'll be here to kind of do a deep dive on this because
Right.
it's much needed.
And if we could also have what we've actually paid them up to this point too, we'd like that too.
So what do we have in the budget
Yeah.
today for this?
It should be, and it might be
Let's see if it passes.
an Amy question. I want to say we did budget the 500,000, which is what we were told. And of course, I want to say it was like 500,000 and also an additional amount for all the work we're currently seeing now for the construction documents, the bid documents, all of that work. Yes, that
Yeah, 550 is what I see.
550, so then that probably,
that the
yeah, so
budget?
it was 550 then.
Right.
And
That's what I see. I just want to make sure, is that about right?
Yes, sir. My recollection is it was 550. That included everything that we're talking about, the design documents as well as construction.
Thank you.
And really, like Eddie said, the reason we're here now, because we want to get the ball the ball rolling, because we actually we would love to get this project started and finished. so we can start programming out there.
Plus, the longer we wait is the more expensive this is gonna be.
Next year it'd be 2 million.
Right.
Yeah, so that's why we wanted to get this out front, so that we can decide on how we want to move forward with this.
When is Mac Adams scheduled to come back to give us a deep dive?
Planning on the February work session.
Okay.
That's the budget work.
Oh, is,
There's no work session.
okay.
One last question. Paul, do you have another question?
No, more of a statement. I just want to make sure we keep in mind, like, we've had this long-term goal of getting this started and everything else. And I know it's going to be a lot more money to start the entrance and everything else, but I just want to keep in mind that we do have a lot of other things we need to do for Parks and Rec too. So I just don't want to be focused on this and forget about all the other stuff we're going to need money for as well. So I just want to make sure we need to get this done, but just keep in mind that there's other things we need, the town needs. We've grown enough that we're going to need a lot more stuff for Parks and Rec as well. So I'll put that out there.
Any other question? The only other question I got is the existing buildings out there. I think the site plan you put up called for keeping those. So are we protecting those in some way? Are we maintaining them in a, you know?
For the most part, it's the old farmhouse and then all the outbuildings. The farmhouse, most of what we do is just keep it warm for the most part. I have a pest control company go out and just make sure that we're not getting mice and stuff inside. But beyond that, we're not doing like any sort of restoration work or we're not like trying to improve the house or anything at this point. But that would be a whole separate discussion of what exactly we want to do with that house.
Yeah, I think you tie it into the agritourism part of that too. I think that would be, since it's out there, I mean, that'd be something we could look into.
Yeah.
Don't want to lose it. I mean, it's a farmhouse, everything else, you have all the buildings and stuff, it makes sense for,
Part of history.
yeah, history, education for everyone, stuff like that, so,
Yeah, if we do this here, this project, then you can go out there.
right.
You can go out there, and I don't know if something you can use the house for or not, but
But I have one question. So just with the road built, you already have ideas of programs to put out there with just the road?
Oh, yes.
Yes, we've thought about different programs doing. We're looking at, pretty soon we will have to change our location for the 4th of July set up as well. We've looked at maybe putting some temporary disc golf out there. We looked at some cross-country, a 5K course that people can go and run or walk.
So you've got some ideas going.
Yes, ma'am. We do have ideas, but there again, we just got to get the road in. Yeah. Once we get the road in, we can really start to really put our heads together on maybe, if nothing else, maybe first time out there, like we were talking about, little small wins. Maybe we put a picnic shelter in the bathroom out there, playground, something small. Get some small wins before we worry about trying to go real big with it. But a lot of the other stuff is just kind of, we're gonna have to be on maintaining the grass anyway, cutting it anyway. So the other projects are all low maintenance for right now.
Thanks, Eddie.
very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other question?
Sir.
Thank you, Jim.
Very good.
One
Thank you
thing,
guys for coming, appreciate that.
one thing I kind of wanted to add was, so when it comes down to the work of McAdams, I think it's important for us to remember that we didn't lose any money because the work was still the work. But what there was there's a false expectation of it being way cheaper that ultimately fell through. And so I don't want the disappointment of getting a low price and then finding out it was much higher to kind of contribute to us kind of waiting for McAdams to come in and state their piece. They have accepted and owned their mistake. And so I will give them that credit for doing that. And so we're in the process of trying to figure out ways in which they can support us as we move forward to kind of make up for some of the
Yes.
calories we've burnt stressing over, for lack of better words, if I were to shoot straight, calories we've burnt stressing over this price change. And so they've been very forthcoming in the most recent conversations as this kind of transition to me being added into the conversation. And so I wanted to commend them for kind of owning up to it, in all honesty. I know that we saw this also with another project, but we were able to, but because we had great communication with the other consultant, we were able to manage expectations much better. And that's the surprise that we had on the CIP project at Willoughby. And so our initial estimate for that one was $420,000, and our bids came in knocking on $1 million for that. And that estimate was only less than a year old on that project as well. And so, but the thing about with them is that they kind of knew what was coming. They said it's probably going to be closer to 8, but it knocked on 9. And so we were able to go back and adjust the plans for that one to kind of alleviate some of the burden, give them more time to do it, make some edits to the plan, clarify. So hopefully when we rebid, we have a bid open for that one tomorrow. We'll come in a little bit better than we did last fall when we tried to bid it out. But just wanted to state that one. Hopefully we can continue making progress with it. But we have reached a point where we have to decide on if we go out to bid, we're not locked into we are not locked in to have them facilitate or support us as we move through our bid services phase, the bidding phase. But the cons to that is that you will have to have help the new firm that we select get up to speed on the project, and they won't be aware of the historical context of the project. And so those are just things that we're thinking about as staff. And we'll bring that back to you, hopefully in the next conversation, so you can kind of be looped in. And so that's what I wanted to add, just that general kind of context about that.
On these projects, Eric, is the pool of bidders, is it limited or unlimited?
No, so we post it in 4 different places, and our responders, I mean, we had 7 firms be interested in the Willoughby project. 5 submitted last time. We have 7 or 8 that are interested in the Willoughby project this time around. What we're seeing now is that a lot of the firms are kind of partnering with one another. I think the pandemic has shifted the space in which the bigger firms have found out that they're big enough, and the smaller firms have found out that they're small. Yeah. And so some of what used to be primes pre-pandemic have opted to go sub. And so that's helping some of these larger companies put out bids, subcontract out major parts of it to make it a little bit more economical for them. And so there are people bidding right now. They are looking to fill up their agendas for next year and the year after that and the year after that. In a way, they're trying to. I feel like they're trying to shore up their future work. From my conversations with them, because the forecast economically for development, you kind of have to get to it. First early bird gets the worm, early bidder gets the project, and so some of these projects are going to be stretched out over a few years, and so there's great insurance on doing some of these longer term projects with us and establish a relationship when we get into moving into multiple phases. So I think they'll jump at this one. They jumped at Willoughby, and this one is further out and there's less traffic to deal with, and so they'll probably jump at this one at the farm as well when we put out the bid.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, June. Thank you, Eddie. Appreciate y'all coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the update. Let's see, we have been going an hour and 40 minutes now, so let's take a quick recess break for 10 minutes. We'll start back at 7:50 by that clock there, 7:50. So we are in recess. Thank you, board. Appreciate it. The next item on the workshop is discussion of town staff space needs, and I think our interim town manager, Eric, is going to lead us in that.
Thank you so much. And so this presentation about discussion of staff space needs is just that. It's a discussion. I don't think we could reach a consensus or come up with a solution to fix the problem today if we tried. But I wanted to just posit this in your brains so we can have this conversation. The discussion of space needs falls into the bigger conversation of the CIP and how we're going to approach that as well. And that's something that we'll be talking about at the budget retreat. But what I want to do is add this particular perspective to it so you can kind of see how the CIP kind of plays into the bigger picture. And so for the sake of, I know you all are aware of this, but for the sake of those watching who may rewatch, just to give some background, Rolesville is growing rapidly. Surprise, surprise. Increasing the need for more municipal service and also the expansion of existing municipal services. And so one of the examples of expanding in municipal services is we got a public works facility because we needed to not necessarily change what we were doing, but scale it up, and we needed more space to do that. And we also added more staff to the Parks and Recreation Department as a result of needing to scale up and expand our offerings with athletics, not necessarily diversify, but the goal is to try to do both. And so the town has hired many staff over the years to keep pace with the expectations of the people that are moving here and also the people that are living here as well. And if I were to kind of give it a metaphor when it comes to our space need, you see there's a plan up there. The services are kind of the fruit of our work, and the staff kind of serve as the roots that push out these different services. And when you think about a space, it's the container. And so right now we're trying to figure out how to repot the plant because staff is getting a little squished. And oftentimes when you find a way to get a plant that is growing and thriving, because it's not like we're behind the 8 ball, into a bigger plot, you see those roots relax and then you start seeing more leaves, even if you don't necessarily add a tremendous amount of staff. And so there's a need for additional office space to house existing and future staff as we await the building of the new town hall campus. And so I don't want to disregard the town campus, and that is on the way. This conversation is really around what do we do until that day comes? What do we do until we have a community center? What do we do until we have a police station? Or what have you. And so what are some ideas that we can have and help us in the meantime? And so we've been brainstorming amongst staff. I even chatted with the mayor ahead of today just to give him some insights into what the presentation will be about. And that is what we're wanting to have a conversation with you about, some ideas, and just see what are the things we should not be thinking about and the things that we could be thinking about. Again, this is just kind of a reminder that, this one piece of space, office space issue or opportunity is a part of the bigger picture of the CIP. And so some of the ideas that we were thinking about, and all of these have their own pros and cons, and I just want to get your thoughts about these different things, is the first is just renting space in the town at existing commercial office buildings. We've been looking for those. Michael has been out looking for those, and there's not a lot of offerings. And so we may, with your permission, need to expand the territory in which we're looking if we go this route. But one of the cons of this is that it will require an upfitting cost and would take available commercial space off the market that could be used by other commercial entities. And so we'll essentially put ourselves in competition with the commercial growth that we've been seeking. The second idea we have is renovating the current community center at Town Hall, or a portion or the entire community center into a flexible office space. We know that this would take away from some of the programming that's going on over there, but this was just a thought of, what can we do with what we currently have? Again, pros and cons to each one. And then lastly, purchasing or building trailers or accessory buildings like what you might see at schools to locate behind town hall on the existing town property. And so that was a thought as well. In general, we wanted to get your feelings about this because this space issue is something that we kind of need to make progress on pretty quick. Because even if we hire all of the staff that are approved, we don't currently have enough space to comfortably sit without shifting our work patterns to being more asynchronous and rotating off desks or what have you. But we don't have enough space to hire all of the current employees that are approved to work here in Town Hall. And so those, so if we don't make any edits to existing desks and drop-in areas, we'll short 2 spaces. And so planning is looking to hire 2 people. Well, they have 3 vacancies. They have 2 that we never had, 2 positions and 1 vacancy. And one of the offices they have is currently occupied by someone who will transition to the public works facility. So it'll be 2 spaces. Yeah.
There's no other space outside the community center in the building?
No.
Do we have the option of putting the trailers and stuff if we went that route, like near town hall? Like, is that an option to put it in like the back of the building and stuff?
So we can look into it and the feasibility, but oftentimes we just want to know if the idea.
Well, the only reason I think of that is because it's temporary. You can get it probably pre-wired and everything else. I mean, it's kind of a setup and thinking long-term.
Yeah.
We're going to be at town hall, campus eventually, so there's no reason to get into something else, I don't think. And like you said, you don't want to fight against the commercial coming in by just taking spots of commercial already out of the town.
Yeah, the biggest cost with
Short of space anyway.
Yeah.
In the town.
Right.
the biggest cost with those temporary facilities in Wake County can probably give us an idea. You got to get water there, you got to get sewer there, you got to put lines in, you got to put telecom,
Right.
got to put power, all that stuff costs
Right.
a lot of money.
Have we looked at possibly office sharing with people working part-time, days remotely?
Yeah.
Yes.
Share an office between 2 people, one work 2, one work 3, and even, go back and forth. There's certain positions where we could do that. That's probably the most cost-effective and the fastest way to transition into providing the space.
Yes.
Considering that we are building a new town hall and all of that goes with it.
That's something that planning has been working on. But it's also something that we have to, as a whole, we have to advance, not our technology, because we've been doing great, and expand our technology, but the way we work. It's like a culture shift that has to happen with people learning how to work remote, learning how to work. I don't like saying remote. I like saying asynchronously, but people are learning how to do that. And so with our recent transition to Teams, I'm personally seeing an uptick on its utilization. But until we kind of master the tools, shifting to more asynchronous work, it may impede some progress on some things. But it's really, I'm totally for working with the staff to figure out how they can sync up best for that. And so.
Yeah, I know the owner of the building up there behind Suzanne's has put a sign up in the last couple weeks. And I can't remember what it says, but something about future office space or something.
What building behind Suzanne?
Does-
Fire department behind Suzanne.
No, on
The
this
block
side,
building?
behind Suzanne. The block building.
Yeah, I know what you're
The
talking about.
two-story.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
the sign says?
Yeah, I'll have to look at
something
it
about-
again, but yeah.
Co-space, office
It could
space or
be, yeah.
something. So maybe have Michael check with him. It's that old building, but
Again, it's taking space away from
no, it's
our
not connected.
commercial.
To itself, it's a two-story.
Yeah, Eric, I'm just looking online as far as in those trailers that the high school uses, and they call bungalows.
Yep.
And they can range in between 10,000 to 100,000, depends on the type of sizes.
And then you
that
gotta
you
fit
use.
them with, like you said, plumbing and electrical.
Yeah.
I mean, the fastest, easiest, and cheapest is just sharing an office and having people work asynchronously. Your word, not mine. Because we could do that very quickly if we, I don't know if we have any staff that's worked remotely. Some fall into it very easily, others may be more problematic, but that's a solution.
How busy are we on the community center side? Are we like packed constantly, or are we,
We would have to do an assessment.
okay?
Yeah, we have to do an assessment.
The other option is like a temporary setup over there where they could already be moved. I mean, I know you have your things and stuff you want to have in your own office and stuff, but if there's people who are actually like, kind of hybrid, but kind of not, they could set up over there and still be here, maybe not work from home, but they still have an area there.
Yeah, but if you put dividers up and they've got, events in there, it's disruptive too.
Right,
so.
yeah. That's why I said, like, if it's
Yeah.
not really busy during the day, then yeah, we could use it, but if it's busy, then yeah.
Or we could use that space to set up the temporary offices and then contract with the village church or New Baptist Church or something for us to be able to use some of their spaces for programs temporarily. I don't know
Yeah.
how long temporarily would be.
We're
but-
talking about several years.
Yeah, so, if there's some sort of relationship already there that could be explored,
Okay.
just to rent space from them may end up being less expensive than these bungalows they're called.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, in general, thank you for your ideas and your recommendations. If we're finding that you all have a perspective that a lot of us, I mean, we work here, we live here, but you all really, really like live here. And so some of your relationships may even just having the awareness of that building open up in the back. If you have any of those thoughts, feel free to share them. And know that on a macro level, as we start talking about the CIP, deciding on what building comes first will likely impact how we shift and do these kind of temporary solutions. So in a situation where police building comes first, then we'll likely find a Band-Aid, because if police shifts sooner than later, then that will open up a lot of administrative space on that end as well. But if some of the decisions swing in the community center direction or what have you, then we have to figure out, we'll do some pivoting. And so we're thinking about it. We do have some urgency right now, but I think that any staff that we onboard, they will be open to any kind of temporary solution. But we really just want to keep thinking about, how do we give the roots some space? Because if you bring a team in, I think having someone on site, and at least initially, it helps with them learning the organizational culture and feeling onboarded instead of brought in and set loose, as someone who's personally experienced that. And so we're trying to do our best to not only seek talent, but have them stick when they come about. And so,
There's
yes,
a
sir.
lot of studies going on right now about remote working. I know one came out this past week. You can go online and read about it, where it's not getting the results they thought they were getting from many, many levels. One has to do with how do you train new people, how do you create your culture. 'Cause,
Yeah.
you don't have them here to create the culture. How do you get it, even say the productivity. Most people say if I'm working from home, I don't have no distractions, but I think this study proved that even the productivity is not as high.
Yeah.
So,
It really depends. For long, I've seen studies that it's a benefit for if you have a long-term employee, someone's been here 3-4 years, and it's kind of a reprieve, and they're able to handle certain things. They've reached flow in their job, but early on, it's really, really difficult for some people to make that transition, particularly if it's their first time working asynchronously.
Yeah, I agree. It should be someone who's been here a while, transition to the dual purpose.
Yep.
Eric, question for you.
Yes.
What about the Public Works building? Would there be any extra offices that could be utilized temporarily?
So we, one thing that we're doing with Public Works, so we have one additional, there's 3 offices there, and then there's 2 drop-down spaces, but we're adding one buildings maintenance person that will likely spend less time out and more time in the building. As we look to get them more systematized, my goal is for them to spend more time splitting their time between being in the field and having more administrative time in the building. And so they will be spending more time there. I do think there's a potential to have people roll in and roll out. But I also think that their space may only lean to certain kind of workers being there, because it's a public works facility. And so if planning were to get a code enforcement officer, it'd be a shoe-in. But maybe the more administrative workers may not like as much, but I think there's an opportunity there. We have space. And so, and it's built to expand. It's created to expand. And so it's something to think about for sure.
Yeah, I think my personal thinking of your options, probably that first one makes the best sense, especially if you can find a place already upfitted for office work, where you don't have to upfit it. So I would say definitely keep an eye open for anything that comes available.
Okay.
That had an office in it, whether it's an insurance office or a, real estate office or a attorney's office or anything that comes available that has office space in it. I think we really need to jump on it pretty hard.
I seem to recall there's kind of like almost dead spaces planned in Cobblestone that, that's a few months away, but I think they might have something as well, but you're talking about a more immediate solution than that.
If they are market rate is between like 32
Oh, it's
and 30.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's $32 and $37 a square
Yeah, but
foot.
it's dead
And so
space and it's temporary, we might be able to work out a deal.
yeah.
We're in such great terms.
That
with
makes
them.
sense.
Yeah, you just have to do the upfit though for offices.
Yeah.
But thank you for your ideas. I've taken some notes and we'll take it back to staff and hopefully try to bring some more alternatives and maybe we'll, catch something out here because we've been looking for several months. It's not a new problem, but we definitely felt like we needed to expand beyond just the staff talking about it and kind of a vacuum to gain your perspective and recommendations. So if you hear anything, if anybody out there in the digital world has any recommendations or offerings, please let us know.
Thank you. Any questions?
Question, can you hear me?
Yes.
There is a building beside the dentist office in the park where town hall was. It used to be the old CBD dispensaries place that's now available and has ample room. Could we look at that? Since it's on campus in this area?
Yeah, so we looked into that, and that dental office that's beside it has purchased that, has a lease on that. I think they're expanding their services.
Okay.
I think that's what Michael had told me.
Where is that?
I can double check. But it's across from Paisanos, that
Yeah,
corner of
right.
that building.
I couldn't think of that restaurant right across from Paisanos.
Because it has the chiropractor and the dentist office. I think the dentist office has reserved its space, and they're looking to expand backwards into that. But I will have Michael double check.
Thank you.
Commercial space.
Anything else, guys? Anything else?
Just a few reminders. Main Street Open House is next Tuesday on the 23rd. We have 2 sessions. One is midday from 12 to 2 p.m. And then there's an evening opportunity for business owners and residents to come in as well from 4 to 7 p.m. There's been flyers going out about that. And Michael has also engaged the business community for them to come out as well. Following this open house, I'll get feedback from them, and then I'll come forward with an update on the Main Street project that kind of contains any kind of feedback that we got from that open house. So I encourage everyone to go out for that. And I'll remind you of that via an email later this week, and then also provide some additional information about next Friday, which is January 26th, where we have our strategic planning retreat. That'll be over at Wake Electric. And so you get a rundown of what that day looks like. The primary focus of that will be you all. We'll have staff in place and kind of like a gallery to answer any questions if you have it about any specific things. But we'll be working with you all to kind of get your ideas and your vision on what the future looks like and what the strategic plan looks like. And so they've already had a meeting with staff and got some great information from executive leadership and kind of pulled that into a place to give you something to respond to and kind of build upon as we look to get information from you and then move into the public engagement piece phase of the plan development. But that concludes my updates. Again, if y'all have any questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Town Attorney, anything real quick before we adjourn?
No, sir.
Thank you. Do you mean to say that? You mean to, Mr. Commissioner Linwood and Commissioner Paul, we'll be following up with a meeting with you two to do some pre-budget to get you acclimated to that, and then do a walkthrough with the CIP over the CIP plan. What's the formal name? CIP. The CIP strategy with you all ahead of the budget meeting. And so I'll be dropping that onto your calendars before we have the budget retreat so that you all can be up to speed on everything.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Town Attorney?
Still good.
All good. Nothing. And I think the board is good. Nothing from the board.
I just got one thing, sir. That is that the Veterans Coffee, we have several veterans that's under the weather, so we're going to be canceling our monthly coffee here with a veteran, but a veteran organization called the Joel Fund will be hosting a hybrid Veterans Coffee Connection January 24th at 8:30 a.m. and it will be in person or virtually. I gave the information out to Lindsay already, so she is going to put it out in our blast as well as Facebook or our social media platforms.
Great. Anything else? I'll close by, recapping the evaluation presentation that was given us. 51% is a lot. It's a tremendous amount.
Yes.
And only advantage the homeowners have if they try to sell it, they're going to make a whole lot more money. But if they're not planning to sell it, then it's just tough. And I think it's, we've seen in the past, it's a lot tougher on fixed income people than anyone. I saw in the presentation that the apartments went up 70-some%, I think, 78%.
A lot, yeah.
And, we only have two, so we know what two they are.
Right.
And that's the apartments are the worst ones hit, for sure. But you'll probably be getting calls, so make sure you give the cards out, and so they can call and get more information. This seems like it's a good little brochure. Let's make sure we get this on. Who's the communication?
Lindsay.
Yeah, I guess it's Michael, ain't it? Michael, make sure we get this out to the public, because I think those letters is going out tomorrow, she said.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So,
Right.
That's a sticker shock, I think, when you open that thing up. But they should, I would expect it, because, everything is going up, especially the housing market went crazy.
True, but Mr. Mayor, there's two parts to the equation. One is the appreciation of the revaluation of the properties, and the second is the tax rate. So
That's what
it's
this board has to-
conceivable the tax rate could mitigate the increase in the
Yeah.
appraisal values.
Yeah, That's,
Yep.
that's exactly right, and that's what you guys will decide on where to land with that tax number. But if you look at the chart, and she made it plain too, that even with revenue neutral, some people get hit harder.
True.
The ones that are 78% increase gets hit harder, even though if you make it neutral. And if I noticed, a lot of those neighborhoods was older neighborhoods that has the 50-year-old houses in it and stuff. And those are the ones that really went up a lot, maybe even more than 75, maybe doubled in price, you know, some of those older houses. And that's where a lot of the elderly people live too, in those older houses.
It's true.
So, you know, it is a tough, it's a tough, I guess, result from this crazy inflation we had after COVID that drove everything high, and now it's coming due. And so, you know, if people reach out to you, just make sure you give them the information and try to help them through this thing as best we can. And with that, any other comments? With no objections, I'm going to adjourn the work session. Thank you, board, for participating. I appreciate it. Thank you, Linwood. I hope you feel better really soon. So thank you for joining us, and do appreciate you not coming in spreading to these.
Yeah, buddy.
That's the wrong kind of love, Mr. Longwood.
Yeah, you weren't gonna hold that one against me. I love you guys too much, but thank you for letting me join.
Well, thank you, board. Appreciate that. And we will be adjourned. Thank you.